Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna
Krishna
Prasthaya
Prasad
Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami
Niti Namin
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastyatyadshatarine
Namaste
Namaste
Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jai Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Krishna
Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
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 Krishna,
Hare
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 Hare,
Hare Rama Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama
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 Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Is it
Hare.
nice?
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare
Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari,
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare
Madhava
Kunja Bihari,
Gopi Janavallabha Girivarathari
Gopi
Gopinamalava
Vallabha
Giridharadhari,
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Giridvaradhari.
Jaya
Gopi
Gopi Jaya
Vallabha
Vallabha
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashodanandana
Jana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachare.
Yamuna Tira
Yamuna Tira Vanachare.
Yamuna Tira
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hare.
Jaya Madhava Kunja
Bihari
Bihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare.
Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Hari
Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada
Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo.
Haribo Haribo
Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bo
Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan Yagi ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Iskon Guru Vrinda ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari
Haribo.
Om Agyantamirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vachkapatarru Vishta Kripa Santadevacha Patitanam Pavanetyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Tatai Mahatirya Mahapuro Vibhur Nirma Exatilum Suprasha Punkta Gnan Sadasa Sadas Makalam Krishista Bhagavan Vachansi Me. So let's chant the invocational mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, just to refresh our memory, yesterday we discussed the first 6 texts of chapter 24, which is worshipping Govardhan Hill. And Krishna, while seeing that the Prajapasis are about to perform sacrifice for Indra, he is inquiring about what are they going to do, what are they planning. And despite of the reluctance of the adults to explain to this little boy, all the intricacies of sacrifice, he is very cleverly and very powerfully manipulating, we can say, or controlling their consciousness by very clever questions. And the last one he says, if you understand yourself, what you are doing, you would be able to explain. So are you, if you're not being able to explain, does it mean you're trying to do something you don't really understand? Why are you doing it? So that's pretty powerful, right? And so this is what we've stopped at yesterday. And we've discussed that this is very relevant point for us, for our development of Krishna consciousness, that we are meant to be fully cognizant of what we are doing, not just be blind followers, right? And if we are blind followers, we can end up like the blind man who held the tail of the cow, as we've discussed yesterday, which I'm sure none of us wants to do. Have we looked at that yesterday's story? Yes? As far as I remember, we've done. Okay, so we will, and I hope yesterday's discussion was useful. And so today we will continue. Let me share the screen with you. We will continue from text 7. And again, we need, as we mentioned, volunteers to read Sanskrit and translations and purports. One volunteer should read Sanskrit for us, and second, translations, and third, purports. And then we'll be discussing that. So it doesn't look like Utkarshini is here tonight, so.
She's just joined.
Okay, she just joined, very good. So, same devotees or different devotees want to take it up? So let's see.
I'll read translations again if no one else wants to.
Okay, Tiffany will read translations.
Do
And
the purports unless somebody else would like to read the purport today.
okay, so Gail is offering, anyone wants to take up reading purports, or you prefer to let her continue?
Same with me as well, Maharaj.
Sorry?
I said same with me as well. If anybody else is reading, I'm happy. Otherwise, I will read it.
Okay, Utkarshini will continue with Sanskrit. Yeah, I think she's done very good job yesterday. Very nice reading Sanskrit. Okay, so we'll start with text 7. And so Utkarshini, please.
तत्र तावत् क्रियायोगो भवतां किं विचारितः अथवा लौकिकस्तन्मे पृच्छतः साधुभन्यताम्.
Okay, translation.
Such being the case, the ritualistic endeavors of yours should be clearly, such being the case, the ritualistic endeavors of yours should be clearly explained to me. It is a ceremony based on scriptural injunction or simply a custom of ordinary society?
Okay, so there is no purport to this verse in our edition of Bhagavatam, but we have Sarartha Darshani purport by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he says, anticipating that one of the coward men may say, we are conducting this yagya after considering very carefully with knowledge, Krishna replies here with another question. Is this fruitive endeavor, Kriya Yoga, based on scripture? Or is it simply a local custom? So Krishna wants to know, is it authorized? Or is just, something which is a local custom? Is it based on scripture or not? We can see that Krishna is always concerned about everything being authorized. If something is not authorized by Vedas, that means it's not authorized by him also. And so we'll read next text, the response from Sri Nanda Maharaj. Sanskrit, please.
श्रीनन्द उवाच पर्जन्यो भगवानिन्द्रो मेघास्तस्यात्ममूर्तयः ते अभिवर्षन्ति भूतानां प्रीणनं जीवनं पयः.
Thank you. Translation.
Nanda Maharaj replied, "The great Lord Indra is the controller of the rain. The clouds are his personal representatives, and they directly provide rainwater, which gives happiness and sustenance to all creatures."
Okay.
Purport. Without clean rainwater, the earth could not possibly provide food or drink for anyone, nor could there be cleanliness. Thus, it would be difficult to overestimate the value of rain.
Yeah. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, in this verse, Nanda Maharaj gives the logic behind the worship. Nanda Maharaj said, this is a local custom. Indra sends the rain, which is pleasing and gives life to entities, such as grass. So rain is important. So let's go to the next verse. Sanskrit.
तं तात वयम् अन्ये च वार्मुचां पतिमीश्वरं द्रव्यैस्तद्रेतसा सिद्धे यजन्ते क्रतुभिर्नराः.
Translation.
Not only we, my dear son, but also many other men worship him, the Lord and Master of the rain-giving clouds. We offer him grain and other paraphernalia of worship produced through his own discharge in the form of rain.
Purport. Nanda Maharaj patiently tried to explain the facts of life to his young son, Sri Krishna. But in fact, Nanda and all the residents of Vrindavan will learn an astonishing lesson as explained in this chapter.
Yeah. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, Nanda Maharaj is affectionately addressing Krishna with the word Tata, my dear son. The hint is, through the mercy of demigods like Indra, I have attained a qualified son like you. Therefore, you should not oppose this action in this sacrifice. There should be no false pride. We worship Indra with materials created by Indra's rain, just as one worships the Ganga with Ganga water, right? So we worship Ganga using Ganga water. And there is also a ceremony of offering lamps to the sun as a token of gratitude. So in the same way, residents of Vrindavan want to worship Indra, expressing their gratitude for what he gave them, which is a very good thing, attitude of gratitude. But somehow Krishna will rule things in different way, which is very interesting. So next text, number 10.
तच्चेष्यो नोपजीवन्ति त्रिवर्गफलहेतवे पुंसां पुरुषकाराणां पर्जन्यफलभावनः.
Translation.
By accepting the remnants of sacrifices performed to Indra, people sustain them. I'm sorry, there's something in the way. Okay, people sustain their lives by and accomplish the threefold aims of religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. Thus, Lord Indra is the agent responsible for the fruitive success of industrious people.
Purport. One might object that people sustain themselves by farming, industry, and so on. But as previously mentioned, all human and non-human endeavor depends on, I can't see.
Food and drink.
Depends on food and drink, which cannot be produced without ample rain. By the word Trivarga, Nanda further points out that the prosperity achieved through sacrifice for Indra is meant not merely for sense gratification, but also for religiosity and economic development. Unless people are well fed, it is difficult for them to execute their duties. And without performance of duty, it's very difficult to be religious.
Okay. So Nanda Maharaj is explaining the connections between things for his son. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, Nanda Maharaj said, people sustain their lives by the remnants of sacrifices performed to Indra. Human life is not meant just for sense gratification, but for attaining the goals of Dharma, Artha, and Kama. From rain comes grains, from grains comes sustenance of life, from sustenance of life comes religiosity, and from religiosity comes effort and action. Because the clouds are the root of the Dharma, Artha, and Kama, we should worship Indra, the Lord of the clouds. So no one can perform Dharma properly without food, right? Just imagine Krishna consciousness without prasadam. That would be sad, right? Not many people would become enthusiastic. So yes, food is important, and food comes from the earth, and earth is producing food because of rains, and so that's why Indra seems to be very important personality. So next, text 11, Sanskrit, please.
य एनं विसृजेत् धर्मं परं पर्यागतं नरः कामाद्वेषात् भयाल्लोभात् स वै नाप्नोति शोभनम्.
Translation.
This religious principle is based on sound tradition. Anyone who rejects it out of lust, enmity, fear, or greed will certainly fail to achieve good fortune.
Herbert.
If a person neglects his religious duties because of lust, envy, fear, or greed, his life will never be brilliant or perfect.
Okay. These are very good arguments Nanda Maharaj is giving, right? And so it is very surprising that someone could oppose it. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this verse speaks of the daya result of not worshipping Indra. If one neglects his religious duties out of lust, greed, fear, or enmity, he will not attain any benefit now or in the future. So very dangerous path, not to worship Indra. Text 12.
श्री शुक उवाच वचो निशम्य नन्दस्य तथान्येषां रजोकसाम् इन्द्राय मन्युं जनयन् पितरं प्राह केशवः.
Translation.
Sukadev Goswami said, when Lord Keshava, Krishna, heard the statements of his father Nanda and other senior residents of Raj, he addressed his father as follows to arouse the anger in Lord Indra.
Herbert.
Sridhar Swami explains that Lord Krishna's intention was not simply to insult a demigod, but rather to knock down the great mountain of false pride that had arisen within the Lord's tiny servant, who was supposed to represent the Lord as Indra. By lifting Govardhan Hill, Lord Krishna would thus initiate a blissful annual festival called Govardhan Puja, and he would further enjoy the pleasant pastime of dwelling for several days beneath the hill with all his loving devotees.
So Krishna is achieving three purposes. First, diminishing the Indra's pride. Second, initiating annual festival. And third, enjoying with his devotees. Whenever Krishna is doing anything, it is always achieving multiple benefits at once, right? And let's read what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has to say. Krishna's aim in provoking Indra's anger was to break the mountain of his false pride. By lifting Govardhan hill, Sri Krishna would initiate a blissful annual festival called Govardhan Puja, and he would further enjoy the pleasant pastimes of dwelling for several days beneath the hill with all his loving devotees. These are the successive reasons for Krishna's words. So it's pretty much taken directly from this purport. So let's go to the next text, 13.
श्रीभगवानुवाच कर्मणा जायते जन्तुः कर्मणैव प्रलीयते सुखं दुःखं भयं क्षेमं कर्मणैवाभिपद्यते.
Translation.
Lord Krishna said, it is by the force of karma that a living entity takes birth, and it is by karma alone that he meets his destruction. His happiness, distress, fear, and sense of security all arise as the effects of karma.
Robert?
Lord Krishna minimized the importance of the demigods by speaking the philosophy known as Karmavad or Karma Mimamsa, which basically is atheism with all what? I can't see the script.
Belief in reincarnation.
With all belief in reincarnation. According to this philosophy, there are subtle laws of nature that reward or punish us according to how we act. As you sow, so shall you reap. In a future life, one reaps the fruit of his present work, and this is the sum and substance of reality. Lord Krishna, being God himself, could hardly be a serious proponent of this mediocre philosophy. In the role of a young boy, he was simply teasing his pure devotees by preaching it. Srila Jiva Goswami points out that Lord Krishna was thinking, why are these eternal associates of mine appearing as my father and other relatives and friends so caught up in this worship of Indra? Thus, although the Lord's main purpose was to take away the false pride of Indra, he also wanted to remind his eternal devotees that they need not divert their attention to other so-called gods, since in fact his devotees were already living with the supreme absolute truth, the Almighty Lord himself.
Yeah. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is basically saying what the first paragraph of the purport explains. So this purport is combination of the Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti. And it is very interesting that Krishna is using materialistic philosophy to establish pure devotional service. And sometimes we can say that some people using devotional philosophy to establish materialism. So that's the difference between us and Krishna. Whatever Krishna is doing is all leading to devotion, and whatever materialistic people are doing, even if it is connected to devotion, it's all leading to materialism. And yeah, we'll read the next verse, 14, please.
अस्ति चेद् ईश्वरः कश्चित् फलरूप्यन्यकर्मणां कर्तारं भजते सोऽपि न हि अकर्तुः प्रभुर्हि सः.
Translation.
Even if there is some supreme controller who awards all others the results of their activities, he must also depend upon a performer's engaging in activity. After all, there is no question of being the bestower of fruitive results unless fruitive activities have actually been performed.
Mm-hmm. Purport.
Here, Lord Krishna argues that if there is a supreme controller, he must depend on a performer of activity to reciprocate with, and must therefore also be subject to the laws of karma, being obliged to award happiness and distress to conditioned souls according to the laws of good and evil. This superficial argument neglects the obvious point that the laws of nature that prescribe the good and bad results of pious and impious acts are themselves creations of the all-good Supreme Lord. Being the creator and sustainer of these laws, the Lord is not subject to them. Furthermore, the Lord is not dependent on the work of the conditioned souls, since he is satisfied and complete within himself. Out of his all-merciful nature, he awards the results appropriate to our activities. That which we call destiny, fate, or karma is an elaborate and subtle system of rewards and punishments meant for gradually encouraging conditioned souls to evolve to the stage of perfect consciousness, which is their original constitutional nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has so dexterously formulated and applied the laws of material nature governing punishment and reward for human behavior that what?
Living being is
That
discouraged.
that living being is discouraged from sin and encouraged toward goodness without suffering any significant interference with his free will as an eternal soul. Contrast to the material nature, the Lord exhibits his essential nature in the spiritual world, where he reciprocates the eternal love of his pure devotees. Such loving affairs are based completely on the mutual freedom of the Lord and his devotees, not on a mechanical reciprocation of coinciding selfish interests. The Supreme Lord, assisted by his pure devotees, repeatedly offers the conditioned souls of the world the opportunity to give up their bizarre attempt at exploiting the material universe and go back home, back to Godhead, for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. Considering all these points, the atheistic arguments given here by Lord Krishna in a playful mood are not to be taken seriously.
Okay, good. And let's see what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. He says, but how can inanimate karma alone give results? There must be a dispenser of the result of action, a Lord. This verse answers this objection. If such a Lord exists, he must give results to those who perform actions. Then Krishna makes his logic stronger by negation. If there is a supreme controller, he must depend on a performer of activity to reciprocate with and must therefore also be subject to the laws of karma, being obliged to award happiness and distress to conditioned souls according to the laws of good and evil. So basically what Krishna says, if there is a controller who depends on the laws of nature himself, then he is not really worthy of worship. And he will explain it further. Text 15.
किमिन्द्रेणेह भूतानां स्वस्वकर्मानुवर्तिनाम् अनीशेनान्यथा कर्तुं स्वभावविहितं नृणाम्.
Translation.
Living beings in this world are forced to experience the consequences of their own particular previous work. Since Lord Indra cannot in any way change the destiny of human beings, which is born of their own nature, why should people worship him?
Perfect.
Lord Krishna's argument here is not a negation of free will. If one accepts the existence of karma as a system of laws awarding reactions for our present activities, then we ourselves according to our nature, will decide our future. Our happiness and distress in this life have already been adjudicated and fixed according to our previous activities. And not even the demigods can change that. They must award us the prosperity or poverty, sickness or health, happiness or distress due us by our previous work. However, we still retain the freedom to select a pious or impious mode of activity in this life. And the choice we make will determine our future suffering and enjoyment. For example, if I was pious in my last life, in this life, the demigods may award me great material wealth. But I am free to spend my riches for good or for bad purposes, and my choice will determine my future life. Thus, although no one can change the karmic results due him in this life, everyone still retains his free will by which he determines what his future situation will be. Lord Krishna's argument here is quite interesting. However, it neglects the overriding consideration that we are all eternal servants of God and must satisfy him by all that we do.
Okay. So Krishna again says that if we are depending on our karma, why should we depend on somebody else? Because that somebody else also depends on karma, right? So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the demigods have no function at all, or like the nipples on the neck of a goat. Thus, Krishna says that there is no need to worship Indra because people are simply reaping their inevitable karma. There may be an objection. Action cannot take place unless the supersoul instigates it. Thus, how can you say that the demigods have no function? Krishna answers, the supersoul inspires the soul to act on the basis of his previous impressions, samskaras, and for no other purpose. Since one only acts according to his previous deeds, worship of Indra will have no effect. That's very interesting. So basically, Krishna says, why do you have to worship anyone if you are doing right things? You know, everyone will get results anyway. And so what is this point of worshiping? Very interesting. Krishna propagates materialistic philosophy. Krishna is preaching that just depend on yourself, just depend on your work. Why do I have to worship anyone? Let's see where it will lead us to. Text 16.
स्वभावतन्त्रो हि जनः स्वभावम् अनुवर्तते स्वभावस्तम्मिदं सर्वं सदेवासुरमानुषम्.
Translation.
Every individual is under the control of his own conditioned nature, and thus he must follow that nature. This entire universe, with all its demigods, demons, and human beings, is based on the conditioned nature of the living entities.
Purport.
Lord Krishna here elaborates upon the argument given in the previous verse. Since everything depends on swabhava, or one's conditioned nature, why bother worshiping God or the demigods? This argument would be sublime if swabhava or conditioned nature were all powerful. But unfortunately, it is not. There is a supreme controller, and we must worship him, as Lord Krishna will emphatically reveal in this chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. For now, however, he is content to tease his relatives.
Very interesting. Krishna is teasing his relatives. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Sri Krishna here elaborates upon the argument given in the previous verse. Since the actions one does in this life depend on his svabhava conditioned nature, why bother worshipping God or the demigods? Very interesting. Krishna preaches complete materialism in these verses. Let's read on.
देहान् उच्चावचान् जन्तुः प्राप्योत्सृजति कर्मणा शत्रुर्मित्रमुदासीनः कर्मैव गुरुरीश्वरः.
Translation.
Because it is karma that causes the conditioned living entity to accept and then give up different high and low grade material bodies, this karma is his enemy, friend, and neutral witness, his spiritual master and controlling lord.
Purport.
Even the demigods are bound and limited by the laws of karma. That Indra himself is subordinate to the laws of karma, explicitly stated in the Brahma Samhita. Can't see.
Yastvindra gopam athavendra ahosvakarma bandhanurupa phalabhajanamatanoti.
The Supreme Lord Govinda awards all creatures the appropriate results of their work. This is as true for mighty Indra, the Lord of the material heavens, as it is for the germ called Indragopa. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 20, also states, Kamaishtair Hrita Gyanaha Prapadyante Nyadevataha. Only those who have lost their intelligence because of various material desires surrender unto demigods rather than worship the Supreme Lord. In fact, the demigods cannot award benefits to anyone independently, as stated by Lord Krishna in the Gita. Mayaiva Vihitan Hitan. All benefits are ultimately issued by the Lord himself. Thus, it is not altogether incorrect to say that demigod worship is useless, since even the demigods are under the laws of karma. In fact, this is the case. But Lord Krishna, the Supreme Absolute Truth, is not subordinate to the law of karma. Rather, he can independently offer or withhold his favor. This is confirmed in the verse from the Brahma Samhita quoted above, the third line of which is Karmani Nirdhati Kintu Cha Bhakti Bhajam. The Supreme Lord burns up all the accumulated karma of those engaged in his loving service. Not only is Lord Krishna above the laws of material action and reaction, but he can immediately dissolve these laws for anyone who satisfies him through loving service. Thus, the Almighty God is supreme in absolute freedom, and by surrendering to him, we can escape the bonds of karma and stop accepting their dismal rule as supreme.
Okay. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives very short purport. It's our action karma which is based on previous impressions, which gives all results. Therefore, it is worshipable. That is the intention of this and half the next verse. So, very interesting. Krishna wants his devotees to worship karma. It says karma is supreme. If everyone is under the laws of karma, then the karma is supposed to be worshipped. Text 18.
तस्मात् सम्पूजयेत् कर्म स्वभावस्त्वस्य कर्मकृत् अञ्जसा येन वर्तेत तदेव स्य हि दैवतम्.
Translation.
Therefore, one should seriously worship work itself. A person should remain in the position corresponding to his nature and should perform his own duty. Indeed, that by which we live nicely is really our worshipable deity.
Purport.
Lord Krishna here proposes the modern, if absurd philosophy that our work or occupation is really God, and that we should therefore simply worship our work. Upon close scrutiny, we observe that our work is nothing more than the interaction of the material body with material nature. As Lord Krishna himself states in a more serious mood in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 28, Guna Guneshu Vartanta. Karma Mimamsa philosophy accepts that good activity in this life will give us a better next life. If this is true, there must be some type of conscious soul different from the body. And if that is the case, why should a transcendental soul worship the interaction of the temporary body with material nature? Can't see.
If the words sampujayat karma
here mean that one should worship the laws of karma governing our activities, then one may astutely ask what it means to worship laws, and indeed, what might be the origin of such laws and who is maintaining them. To say that laws have created or are maintaining the world is a meaningless proposition, since there's nothing about the nature of a law that indicates it could generate the existential situation it is supposed to govern. And in fact, worship is meant for Krishna himself. And this real conclusion will be clearly revealed in this chapter.
Okay. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Shri Krishna here proposes that our work, karma, or occupation is really God, and that we should therefore simply worship sampujayat, our work. Through karma, though karma in general should be respected, karma as the cause is also proved through scriptures. Those situated in their social position, varnas such as brahmanas, perform actions according to that varna, svakarma kam. Nanda Maharaj said, but how can there be success of a sacrifice where the ingredients are offered to the demigods without accepting the demigods, Krishna? The demigods are only karma nga, secondary assistants to the karma itself, according to the philosophy of Hetutvat, causality. In this way, the demigods are reconciled. Karma, the work by which we live happy, is our deity. So it is very interesting that Krishna says karma, which controls everyone, is our supreme deity. And that's why we're supposed to worship karma. But actually, he is the controller of karma, right? So this is a very interesting indirect way how Krishna explains that we should worship the highest cause rather than immediate cause, according to the same philosophy, which says, Yatha taror mula nishechanena tripyanti tatskanda bhujapashakam pranopahara chetendriyanam sarvarhanam atmanam achyutejya. That in the same way as by watering the root of the tree, we nourish the entire tree, or putting food in the stomach, we give benefit to the entire body. So we achieve all purposes by serving the root of everything, which is the supreme sinless Lord Achyuta, infallible Lord Achyuta. So basically, Krishna in very indirect way helps Brajabasis to understand that they should worship highest cause rather than intermediate cause. Next one.
आजीव्यैकतरं भावं यस्त्वन्यम् उपजीवति न तस्माद् विन्दते क्षेमं जारान्नार्यसति यथा.
Translation.
If one thing is actually sustaining our life, but we take shelter of something else, how can we achieve any real benefit? We would be like an unfaithful woman who can never achieve any actual benefit by consorting with her paramour.
Mhm.
The word kshemam means actual prosperity, not merely the accumulation of money. Here, Lord Krishna boldly argues that just as a woman can never achieve actual dignity or enlightenment from an illicit lover, the residents of Vrindavan will never be happy by neglecting the real source of their prosperity and worshiping Indra instead. According to Srila Jiva Swami, the audacity that child Krishna displayed before his father and other elders should be understood as an exhibition of transcendental anger aroused when he saw his eternal devotees worshiping an insignificant demigod.
Yeah. So that's a very simple thing here, that Krishna is not happy that he is their life and soul, but they worship some Indra. So who is Indra anyway? It's like, the postman is bringing you check from your employee, and you start worshiping the postman for bringing you the check, and it neglect your employee, right? So that would be a very strange thing to do. So, and Krishna is not happy with his devotees worshiping Indra rather than worshiping him. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, in this verse, Krishna speaks of the effects of not following his advice. So he says, if you do not worship the topmost cause, you will be like unfaithful wife. So let's read one more text.
वर्तेत ब्रह्मणा विप्रो राजन्यो रक्षया भुवः वैश्यस्तु वार्तया जीवेत् शूद्रस्तु द्विजसेवया.
Translation.
The Brahmana maintains his life by studying and teaching the Vedas, the member of the royal order by protecting the earth, the Vaishya by trade, and the Sudra by serving the higher twice-born classes.
Purport.
After glorifying karma or work, Lord Krishna now explains what he means by prescribed duties born of one's nature. He was not referring to any whimsical activity, but rather to the religious duties prescribed in the Varnashram or Vedic social system.
So this is very popular understanding, very popular philosophy, that work or duty is worshipable. Karma is equal to dharma. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Krishna said, the prescribed duty by which we maintain our lives is our object of worship. Krishna gives examples from the different Varnas social positions. Krishna continued, for Brahmanas, the Vedic scriptures are the object of worship. For the Kshatriya, the earth is the object of worship. For the Vaishya, agriculture, trade, and other occupations are the object of worship. For the Shudras, the higher castes are the objects of worship. All right. Shall we read on, or I guess so far it's pretty clear. Next.
कृषे वाणिज्य गोरक्षा कुशीदं तूर्यमुच्यते वार्ता चतुर्विधा तत्र वयं गोवृत्तयोनिशम्.
Translation.
The occupational duties of the Vaishya are conceived in 4 divisions: farming, commerce, cow protection, and money lending. Out of these, we as a community are always engaged in cow protection.
So Vishwanath Chakravarti explains, although Krishna mentioned Vaishyas in the previous verse, he describes the Vaishyas' duties in more detail in this verse because Nanda and the others were Vaishyas. Krishna said there are 4 occupational duties for the Vaishyas: agriculture, trade, raising cows, and lending money. Among those occupations, we are continuously raising cows. Even during times of hardship, we have not resorted to the alternative occupations. Thus, for us, cows are worshipable. So let's worship cows. Next.
सत्त्वं रजस्तम इति स्थित्युत्पत्त्यन्तहेतवः राजसोत्पद्यते विश्वम् अन्योन्यं विविधं जगत्.
Translation.
The causes of creation, maintenance, and destruction are the 3 modes of nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. In particular, the mode of passion creates this universe, and through sexual combination causes it to become full of variety.
Herbert.
Anticipating the possible objection that a livelihood based on cows certainly depends on Lord Indra, who supplies rain, Lord Krishna here introduces a mechanistic theory of existence known as atheistic Sankhya. The tendency to attribute exclusive causality to the apparently mechanistic functions of nature is an old tendency indeed. 5,000 years ago, Lord Krishna referred to a doctrine already well known in human society.
Okay, very interesting. We can see that Krishna is the source of everything, even materialistic philosophies. Next one.
रजसा चोदिता मेघा वर्षन्तम्बूनि सर्वतः प्रजास्तैरेव सिद्ध्यन्ति महेन्द्रः किं करिष्यति.
Translation.
Impelled by the material mode of passion, the clouds pour down their rain everywhere, and by this rain, all creatures gain their sustenance. What has the great Indra to do with this arrangement?
Herbert.
Krishna continues his mechanistic explanation of existence, concluding, Mahendra Kim Karishyati. Who needs the great Indra, since the rain sent by the clouds, which in turn are impelled by the mode of passion, is actually producing everyone's food? The word sarvataha indicates that the clouds magnanimously send their rain even on the ocean, rocks, and barren land, where there is no apparent necessity for such sweet water.
Yeah, that's the exact interpretation of the purport by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says, why should we worship Indra if he's not giving water to us? He's just pouring it everywhere, even to the ocean. So do you really believe that he's giving water for you? Next one.
ननः पुरो जनपदा न ग्रामा न गृहावयं वनौकसस्तात नित्यं वनशैलनिवासिनः.
Translation.
My dear father, our home is not in the cities or towns or villages. Being forest dwellers, we always live in the forest and on the hills.
Herbert.
Lord Krishna here points out the residents of Vrindavan should recognize the relationship with Govardhan Hill and with the forests of Vrindavan and not worry about a distant demigod like Indra. Having concluded his argument, Lord Krishna makes a radical proposal in the following verse.
So, Vishwanath Chakravarti says, the word Govardhana means that which nourishes the cows. Since Govardhan hill provides abundant grass to feed the cows, the cowherd man should worship it because their occupation depends on having healthy, well-fed cows. This is explained in 2 verses. Krishna said, our home is not in the city or village because we move around herding cows. Our home is the forest and mountains. So let's look at the radical proposal Krishna gives in the next verse.
तस्माद्गवां ब्राह्मणानाम् अद्रेश्चारभ्यतां मकः य इन्द्रयागसम्भारस्तैरयं साध्यतां मकः.
Translation.
Therefore, may a sacrifice for the pleasure of the cows, the brahmanas, and Govardhan Hill begin. With all the paraphernalia collected for worshipping Indra, let the sacrifice be performed instead.
Purport.
Lord Krishna is famous as Go Brahmana Hita, the friend of the cows and the brahmanas. Lord Krishna specifically included the local brahmanas in his proposal because he is always devoted to those who are devoted to the godly Vedic culture.
So Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Krishna said, the blessings of the brahmanas give directly perceivable results to us. Therefore, we should worship them as well, the cows and Govardhan hill. Krishna speaks this verse after convincing Nanda Maharaj and others. Krishna continued, let us perform this sacrifice using the ingredients samhara meant for Indra. So Krishna suggests that Brajabasis worship brahmanas, cows, and Govardhan hill. And they should use the paraphernalias for worshipping Indra to worship Govardhan hill instead. And it's interesting that Govardhan hill is actually Krishna himself. So in this way, he is encouraging Brajabasis to worship him in the form of Govardhan hill. All right. And cows are very dear to Krishna, and brahmanas are also very dear to Krishna. So Krishna wants everyone to worship him and his close associates. So that's his desire. So any questions or comments or complaints? One complaint might be that we haven't saw any stories from Upakhyan Upadesh today. But anything anyone wants to add, subtract, multiply, divide?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Very, very, very nice reading. It when we were just reading in the previous verse, because reading Leelamrita, I had come across that. I can't remember now exactly, but I think devotee had asked Prabhupada that is it that a guru or you or spiritual master actually favored somebody more than others? But Prabhupada actually explained it's not like that. It's just like as the rain falls everywhere, whether that's needed or not, Guru's mercy is there on everybody equally.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way we think. So it just came to me that while we're reading this, it's so nice that how we actually explain that. I just wanted to share it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, very good. Thank you. Yeah, mercy of Krishna and Guru are available for everyone. It's just depending who is taking advantage of it. Anyone else? Everything else is clear. It's very, yeah, okay. Somebody else?
We feel sorry for Indra that there's so much said to not, not worship Indra.
Mm-hmm.
Just a comment.
Okay, all right, thank you. So anyone else wants to say anything? Okay, so yeah.
No, do you have your Giriraj nearby?
Oh yeah.
Can we see him?
Oh, darshan. Okay. Okay, let's try to get his darshan. We'll see how it will work with the camera. Little tricky, but we'll try. Can you see?
Yes,
Yes,
Maharaj.
we
Yes,
can
Maharaj.
see.
Very nice.
Right.
Hmm.
So that's the worshipable object. Krishna wanted Brajabasis to worship. Giriraj Govardhan ki jai.
Yeah.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, is the one next to him also Govardhan Shila?
Yes, also that Govardhan Shila came when I was doing
नहीं होता
last
नहीं ये शेयर हो रही ना स्क्रीन नहीं हो स्क्रीन से है ना
Oh, okay. देखो
नहीं वो शेयर स्क्रीन बंद कर नहीं शेयर स्क्रीन बंद कर दी
Maharaj, can you stop sharing your screen so that we can see the Giriraj bigger?
Well, that might be a little bit tricky with the laptop camera.
If you touch Mataji, if you just touch on the picture you're seeing, the screen share actually goes away, at least on iOS, and then it'll ask you to switch to screen share. So that's what we just did. So it's on my full iPad screen. Just touch that. If you're on iOS, I don't know how it works in Windows.
You can double touch. Like if you double touch a particular screen, it will
Okay.
change to that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Sounds very clear, yeah. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
That's maximum I can afford.
That's very clear, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank
Hare
you, Maharaj.
Krishna.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
All right, darshan time is over.
Maharaj, do you have like 1 minute after everyone leaves, maybe Mahaprabhu? Do you want to stay on as well, Mahaprabhu?
Yeah, sure. But I guess just for the devotees, we will also be having classes next week with Maharaj, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 7 p.m. So yeah, so please do join again. And also, I guess tomorrow we're going to have a class more for, I guess, aimed at beginners. So we're going to discuss that with Mara just after the call at 4 o'clock. So again, anyone can join if they want. So yeah.
Right. Thank you, Mahaprabhu. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Maharaj, so tomorrow for the 4 o'clock class, I have invited a couple of my office colleagues. Main reason is they're very stressed and all that, and they know I do some bit of spiritual activities, and they are not necessarily Krishna conscious or anywhere close to Krishna consciousness.
Okay.
And absolute neophytes, and they're basically looking for some peace, and so I was wondering if something can be done in tomorrow's class where it's generally for everyone, and, because sometimes it's difficult to assimilate for anyone who is new, right? So if we start with a Bhagavatam class and all that, they're probably not going to appreciate it. So,
Yeah, we'll pick something more basic and more practical.
More, yeah, I think, and some topics like how to deal with a difficult situation like this and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. Easy. Life without conflicts. All right.
Yeah, I know, particularly given the COVID situation, there's a lot of uncertainty and stress and all that. So some of my colleagues are actually in their whatever, in the material roles that they've got. They're quite stressed out. And
okay. Yeah. Okay. We can address the subject of stress.
Yeah.
Dealing with stress proactively.
Yeah. So I think we can do that. That will be very nice.
All right. Sure. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks.
Stay safe and be happy in Krishna consciousness.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you.